Hello, welcome back
to the Real and Real Estate. So showing, that's my favorite part because it's like I get to go into every house that I want to own and I don't have to purchase.
But I think that's what most agents like. That's the fun part of the job, the fun part for you too. Yeah, so this is the part where we're going to start going out and looking at properties that fit your need. You as a first-time home buyer are probably pretty excited about this because it's the first time you actually get to feel and touch and see what you've been looking at. So
yeah, and we had a great experience once where we actually had a client who wasn't very particular on their area. So actually on one day, Mel took him up into more of the northern part of, I'd say Salt Lake area. And then I did more of the Utah County area. And then they got a wide variety in the same day.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, they were able to go all over and kind of see and gauge what your money can buy you. And that's what the touring part is fun for too.
Well, and the funniest story that we have is we actually went to a property. Okay, great photographer. Remember, you have a photographer. Sellers have a photographer that goes into their home, takes a picture, makes it beautiful. That is awesome. We try to do that. We try to present your home in the best way when we get a listing. However, this one was wonderful. Beautiful home, everything had it, and then we went inside and there was a huge, I'm not talking small telephone pole, I'm talking one of those big metal telephone poles, electrical
poles. Generator type
yes.
poles. Yeah.
And their photographer, because I always, and I know Mel does the same, is when we're looking for properties that we know that our clients might want to go and see, we'll look and make sure that they meet the needs of them.
Yeah.
And by doing that, the pictures that we look at, we'll look through and we'll even look in the window of the photo of the bedroom to see what's outside there. Well, they covered that pole pretty good.
Yeah, it was not available until you saw. So I actually sometimes tell people, let's pay attention to Google Maps because sometimes there's also very busy roads behind properties that you don't see until you pull up. And a lot of times I have tell clients, you can feel free to drive by the neighborhood because if it's anywhere near you or on your way home or whatever it may be, you could easily drive by and decide it's not for you. So those are some things that I, just to kind of little tips to be aware of.
Yeah, and we also have had times where we've shown clients property and have say a list of 3 or 4 in a certain area, and none of them met the needs of the client. So I quickly look up right where I am and see if anything pulled up that day.
Right.
And so we'll do that and actually found a property. We couldn't get in because it was that day. We drove by it. They loved it. I'm scheduled the next day. We put an offer in a day later. It was because it's that competitive. But the beauty is that we just don't give up because those 3 didn't look good. If we have the time and there's a property that meets those needs in that area, we'll make sure.
For sure.
Yeah, get in there.
And that's just another example of a willing agent who can help you to navigate those things.
Yeah, because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, here's 3. There it is. That's done. But
But
that might not be your perfect home.
And the market is always changing. So just because something wasn't available in the morning doesn't mean it won't be available in the afternoon. So why is it important to have an agent? Well, in the state of Utah, you have to have an agent present to view homes. You can't get into a property without an agent. So if you don't have an agent, you're going to likely be contacting the listing agent. And this is what I like to just tell people is the listing agent works for the seller. They don't work for you. So a lot of times people assume that they're going to save money by working with the listing agent. Sometimes that's people's excuse for not having their own agent. But this is what people don't really understand is that the seller agrees to pay a set commission for the total transaction when they list the property. So usually what happens is that you're not going to get a discount and you're not going to get the house for less expensive just because you don't have an agent. The listing agent is going to now do both sides of the transaction and usually pockets that extra commission. So you now are not getting representation that's exclusively for you. You're not getting a discount. And just to, fun fact, buyers don't pay for their agents. So I don't know why anybody would go and buy the biggest purchase of their life without an agent. And that's why it's important to have an agent present for you because that agent is there to help navigate you and negotiate an offer and and talk to the listing agent and have that good lines of communication. And they're also there to be, Jennifer, like, I mean, I'm sure you can say, like, we have comments and things that we remind people of what their must-haves are. This is kind of hard part is reminding of must-haves. Also maybe opening up, like she said, if the properties are not available in the neighborhoods that the buyer maybe has considered, we will find a couple maybe that are right next to that neighborhood and they maybe do work,
Right.
So it's just an unbiased third party that, remember, as a realtor, it is their job to help you.
Well, and we take the emotion out of it. I mean,
Absolutely.
buying a home is very emotional. We get excited, walk through the door. The people might have staged the home. I've had ones where they've staged the home, which means that they've paid a company to come in to make the inside of their home look like it was on HGTV or in $1 million homes. So they've staged the house beautifully. It is a very popular home. And so when the buyer walks in, they get very emotionally involved in it, which is great for the seller. What happens is, as a buyer agent, we then can say, okay, this is a little on the perfect side, or that's what the staging is. So let's look past the
pretty stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's look at the basics. Let's see what you're going to be left with. Once the furniture's gone, once that nice bedroom set's gone, then we take the emotion. It's a business transaction in our mind for you, but for you to have something that you like. So we want you to be emotional and love it, but we're also there to kind of reel it in and say, hey, I've had people say, oh, we got to have this house. We're going to keep adding 10,000 and then another 10,000. I'm like, it's just, why? Do you really want to be house poor, or is it really worth it? And so that's been the beauty of that is the importance of having an agent with you.
Absolutely.
Especially in buying.
Yeah. And it's just, even things too, it's like, sometimes an agent can tell you, like, maybe the house isn't exactly what you want it to be, but they're able to give you, like, oh, well, maybe you could just change the countertops or open this wall or whatever, like, just little tips like that. So I think that those are, like she said, you take that emotion out and you take the, like, we see houses all day. So we have lots of experience and tips in knowing what maybe can be done, what can't be done, and what solutions to maybe some problems that you may have while you're touring a home.
Right.
So, so I mean, let's say, and also it can help in that deciding factor. Let's say you have 2 or 3 houses that you really want.
That's true.
And you really need to know, like, what do you think we should do? And I will never pick a house for somebody, but I will remind you of your must-haves and kind of go through which house, maybe fits those the best, and offer a unbiased opinion on which one I think, based on what my clients have told me, will fit their needs. And so that's just the importance of having the extra set of eyes with you while you're touring.
Yeah, and the beauty is sometimes...
And you also don't want to be liable to be inside people's houses alone.
No. The fun part is sometimes people forget that a gallon of paint costs $25. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And all that it takes is a $25 gallon of paint to actually change the whole look of a home. So again, that takes out, we're doing it more on the business side than we are on the emotional.
Yeah, so
but now that we found your perfect home.
Yeah, let's assume you found your house.
Yeah.
You're ready to make an offer.
So I'm going to write my REPC. What's a REPC?
Oh, so a REPC is a real estate purchase contract. You're going to hear a lot of little lingo probably from your realtor. And each state may have a slightly different name for this, but that is REPC, as you hear us talk about it, is the contract. That is the general contract before any addendums for purchasing a home.
Right.
And it is standardized, just so you guys know. Your state, whatever state you live in, does have a standard real estate purchase contract that their, Board of Realtors locally has approved that you're going to be using. So
yeah, and the Utah Division of Real Estate for the state of Utah provides that. We all use the exact same one. Doesn't matter who or what realtor you have, or if it's your neighbor and it's the realtor, they have to use that form. So most states have their regulated form. What is on that?
So that's where so that's going to have obviously your purchase price, which you're asking for the home. It's going to have your earnest money, which earnest money is a deposit that you actually, once your offer is accepted, In the state of Utah, this is a specific timeline. I'm not sure if this is in other states, but we have 4 days to pay your earnest money after your offer is accepted. That is going to vary. Oftentimes it ranges from $1,000 to $5,000, I would say is probably the most average amount, depending on your purchase price of your home. And that is your money the whole time. It's just held at a title, or it's either held at the title company or the brokerage escrow account. That money is given back to you either towards your cash to close or your down payment, or if you are doing a no down payment assistance program, it could be refunded back to you.
Right.
So point is to remember that never goes to the seller unless you miss some of these deadlines we're about to talk about next.
Yeah, and and I can tell you that Mel and I make sure that no one ever loses their earnest money. That is like
right, and that's what your agent's job is to protect that for you.
Yeah, because not a lot of people, I mean, have a lot of $5,000
right, just laying around.
Yeah, and want to possibly list. In the REPC, there are timelines. What are some of the timelines we're talking about?
So, one important thing I wanted to talk about too about the REPC is it goes over all your inclusions and what you're buying in the home.
True.
So, sometimes the refrigerator's not included. Sometimes the washer and dryer is included. This is where that information is going to be specified. And if you are asking for additional things, this is where you're going to put it. So maybe they do not include the refrigerator in the listing, but you want it. This is where it goes.
Yeah.
So anyways, aside from that, the most important things that I believe the REPC's purpose is for, aside from purchase price and earnest money, is to outline important deadlines that protect you and the seller throughout the transaction. So your first one is going to be the due diligence deadline. So the due diligence deadline is your time as a buyer to perform exactly that, the due diligence of researching the property, getting an inspection, any repairs that need to be arranged.
And at that time is if there's anything, whether in any of those categories that you are uncomfortable as the possible buyer, is a time that you can decide you want that to end.
Yes, and so let's say you find something out in your research that you don't like, you're no longer comfortable with the home, your inspection comes out with something that is a deal breaker, or you can't negotiate repairs, whatever it may be. You can cancel your contract before your due diligence deadline and your earnest money is refunded back to you. Oftentimes you're still going to be looking for homes, so you may just leave it on file with the brokerage, but it is still yours. And we just have to make sure that we cancel prior to that deadline. Typically, standard in Utah, that deadline is 2 weeks. Recently, it's been shorter because of our competitive market, but let's just use the standard of 2 weeks.
Right.
So that's what that deadline is good for.
And the beauty is usually they're very simple things. People
most of the time you don't have to cancel.
Yeah. So then we move on to the financing and appraisal. We've talked about kind of getting at least your loan is set. We'll just say right now, we'll talk about that later. We've already gotten the pre-approval. We know your financing is good. But all of a sudden, we've offered a price on a home. They'd get an appraisal. What happens?
So when you're purchasing money on a home, you cannot borrow more money than the home is worth. So this would be, thanks to our 2008 crash in the market. So
exactly.
They don't want you to borrow more money than the house is worth.
Exactly.
So if an appraisal comes, say you offered $620 on a house, but it only appraises for $590, you're $30,000 short, what's going to happen? Most cases, your realtor is going to try and negotiate that price and come up with a solution that the sellers would drop the price and, you still purchase the home. But let's say you can't do that, your sellers won't budge and you're like, well, I don't want to come up with 30 grand. Well, good for you. You can withdraw your contract
and we'll find you another home.
And we'll find you another house. So that, again, appraisal condition will protect you there. And again, the financing part of that, kind of what Jen touched on briefly, is you also do have, let's say your interest rate skyrockets.
Sure.
You no longer like the terms of the loan. You actually can withdraw your contract for that reason and still get earnest money back.
Right.
Let's say you didn't listen to your lender and went and bought a bunch of new cars or something that you know you no longer qualify for the loan.
Yeah.
You can withdraw as long as you're before the financing and appraisal deadline, which is standard in our market, 21 days.
Right. So we've now gone through the process. Go ahead.
So as I say, so that last week, just so everyone is clear, let's assume we're working with a 30-day contract here, and we're now on day 21. And let's assume you've gone through due diligence, your house appraised, you're happy with your terms, you did not cancel before either of those deadlines. Your earnest money is now what they consider hard, which means it's non-refundable. So you're not going to withdraw the offer after that deadline. Yeah. So I just want to be clear that for majority of the transaction, your money is refundable.
Right. And usually we don't like to get to the point of hard money unless we know that we're ready to go through. So
you know by that point that things are happening.
So we've actually gotten there. Now we've had everything's in line. We now go to settlement.
Correct. And this is where we're going to stop for this week. And next week we're going to chat about what that means. What happens at settlement? What is that?
And you get your home after settlement.
When you get keys.
Yeah. So see you next week on the Real and Real Estate. Talk to you later. Bye. Yay.